Hi, this is Brian Statema with the Pursuit of Truth podcast. Today I was going to hit you guys with some interesting questions and open them up a little bit. Let's see what we can do with this. So today the question that I kind of came up with is, are all major life passions or political advocacy or activisms, are they all spearheaded by a major impact trauma or event that happened in somebody's life? Because it seems to me it's not often a slow growth into an ideology or a slow transition. It doesn't seem like ideas grow on people. It seems like the thing that will spearhead an activist's life is one major thing. And I guess that's the question, that's what I want to open up. The thing that made me think about this was a case that I heard of a while ago about when President Bush was running for president. He was running and having a lot of his campaign stops when he was campaigning opened with a gentleman who was the head of the Evangelist Church, one of the largest churches in the United States. And he preached against gay marriages and homosexuality. He was a very strong advocate against it. And, it turned out years later that gentleman was paying a male prostitute for sex and taking meth with him and buying meth from him. And so hearing that, it makes you wonder, was he doing this, the activism that he was doing against gay marriage? Now, of course, it says that in the Bible, so it's understood why he would be preaching against it, but it was the primary focus of his career in that field as the head pastor of the Evangelist Church, this major church in the United States. This was the spearhead of his career, was gay marriage. And it wasn't suspicious. Nobody even thought anything of it because he's a Christian and that's a Christian belief. Well, okay, here's the interesting part. Since he was doing all this and that was the spearhead and not purity or being some great person or the love of your fellow brother, that wasn't it. It wasn't those were not the focuses, the primary focuses of his. They might have been up there, but they were not the primary focus. The primary focus was the gay marriage. And why is that so? Well, let's think maybe it's because of his extreme guilt. He was trying to make up for it, or maybe pray the gay away, as they would say. It boggles my mind because it's such a dichotomy, but that dichotomy doesn't come from anywhere. Do you think that his activism was the rebound effect of his sinful actions? That I would put it in his words as sinful actions. Okay, do you think that's the rebound effect? Do you think that's the other half of the coin? That's the yang to the yin. The yin being that he's constantly preaching this and it's his spearhead. Well, the yang is going to be obviously the equal size. Okay, well, his guerrilla he was fighting was of equal size, was the other side that people didn't know about. So, I mean, how do you translate that? How can you equate that? After he was found out, he lost everything, and right now he's in a position where he's having extreme trouble making it through life, living workman's wages. And it's even harder for him to get a job than a normal person because of his reputation now. it seems disreputable, as though he would lie on a major scale. And, it's very interesting to me that it all worked out that way. So, I guess one of the other major things is, for me, another thing this brought to mind after thinking about this. I've never talked about this publicly, but I've talked about it with family. When I was 17, my two parents got divorced. This was in 2017. Sorry, I was 16 years old, and this was in 2017. I was born in 01. Okay, my sister was born in 2006, and she was a child that was not my father's, even though my parents were married, and they'd been married since 04, but they were together since before I was born, so they got married 5 or 6 years after they met. The interesting thing is, so that my sister is my half-sister, and which doesn't matter to me, I love her just as much, but the thing is, the weird thing about it is, my mother did not tell anybody that this was not my father's child. My father thought this was his child for 12 years. And this being said, needless to say, there was a massive elephant in the room. It was all swept under the carpet. Nobody suspected it. And my sister had black hair. My father has like a brown hair. And I have a brown hair, and my mother has like a lighter brown hair. So it just it didn't add up. It was not making any sense. And so basically, in the end, it came out in 2017. The man that had that my mother was with, secretly and had my sister many years later. Was wanting to get back in the life of my sister, and my sister didn't even know that was her father. My mother and him were keeping that secret for all those years, 12 years to be exact. And when all of it came out, it was very interesting. That obviously very traumatic for me, and I believe this event is what spurred my interest in knowing the truth. Hence the name, Pursuit of Truth Podcast. But the most interesting thing about it and my mother, this whole time, my whole childhood was a Jehovah's Witness, very strong advocate against cheating, against immorality, against anything. And if you know anything about the Jehovah's Witness culture and religion, it is basically an extremely strict form of Christianity. The doctrine is a little bit different, but mostly the same. So some of the key points are different. But, it follows some of the same structures, we read the same books. It was the Bible, you know what I mean? It was the New World Translation of Holy Scriptures. It's just a little bit different wording, but, all you need is a little bit different wording for it to mean something completely different. So, but anyway, my mother was an extreme evangelical Jehovah's Witness. And my father got into it as well. And basically lived this perfect life. Well, there's always the opposite side of your personality. There's that shadow that Jung talks about. Jung and the repressed part of your personality, the dominance hierarchy that's put away, basically put in the back of your mind because it does not belong in society, as Jung would refer to it, or Freud would refer to it. That was my mother's dark side. All these things were swept under the rug. They were not supposed to be out in the open. Well, that does not stay that way forever, and it can't stay that way forever. What goes up must come down, and it came down, So it's kind of interesting to think. In the end, in 2017, when all this came back to haunt, it was a very extreme and catastrophic thing. It destroyed the lives of many people, and if there was honesty in the first place, all of the hardship that came with it wouldn't have happened. And so I think it's a great example of that. I think it highlights that very well. And so I think this is probably one of the key focuses, for me at least, of what's important. And I think it would be a good thing to start touching on more. There's oftentimes said the things that are like the Freudian slip, or things of that nature. It's something that's always worth exploring. Carl Jung says that the psyche has many different areas. You have the ego, which is, that's your empirical self. That's when you say, I, myself, you're talking about your ego. The self, the term the self, covers the shadow, the ego, your persona, everything around it. It's your personality. It's you as a whole. And that's not what you mean when you say, I, myself. Which is often confused. Those shadow traits that we have tucked away in the back of our mind, which is, all the things that we put away because we may get hints that we have a certain inkling in our personality, whether it be violence in nature, whether it be sexual or deviant in some way. All the things that we know don't fit in regular life. When you say, oh, hello, to the person at the gas station, $15 on 3, please. When you say those things, you are not passing off yourself. When I say self, I'm talking about the Jungian term self, you as a whole. You are not showing that. You are showing the persona, and actually the very tip of the persona. If you sit down with somebody for an hour for lunch or dinner, and it's the first time you've met them, say a business acquaintance, or you're going out on a first date, you are showing that persona. It's often extremely difficult to set that aside. Your persona, that's a combination of the personality in which you would like to be seen as well as the profession that you are, or your status in society, and it's a negotiation between the two of those things. And if you would like to be seen as a thug, well, you're going to look a certain way, you're going to act a certain way, you're going to dress a certain way, you're going to talk a certain way, you're going to use that term that one would call a blaccent, which I don't like that word, because that accent, and all sorts of people use it. It has nothing to do with the skin color. But it's when it's obviously improper. It's not good grammar. It does not matter if you are raised around other people who speak like that, because nobody's raised around just the people that they live in their home with. You live in a world. You hear people who speak properly, who use good grammar. You have the ability to do that. If you see that this accent that you're using is associated with negative things, it's improper. It's improper. When you go to school, you're taught that it's improper. You're taught how to use grammar. You're taught how to speak English. So when you do that, you're defying norms, you're defying reality, you're defying all those proper things, and you're creating the persona. Because if you were having a real conversation with somebody in depth, you wouldn't use that persona. And when I say depth, that means going past the persona. Depth is an extremely important thing. And so, how do you feel about it? It's a matter of self, not matter of I, myself. People sometimes forget that when you show yourself to the world, the standard thing is to use that persona. But you can beat that. You have it inside you. It's all within you. So first off, you need to recognize your persona. A needs to know of B, and B needs to know of A, as Jung would put it. personality A and B. They need to know of each other, because if they understand each other, then you can eliminate their persona. But if you are at home and that in your real empirical self, so your myself would be knowing A, would not know A, or should I say A is your persona. A knows of B, but B does not know of A, and that's it's just not going to work. You have to open up. You have to disintegrate the divide between the two parts of your personality, which when we're talking about yourself, the self, matter of self, we're saying eliminate your ego. And create that whole being, that entire thing, the entirety, and show that. Because if you're not, then you're lying. It's a lie not to show who you actually are. And lying doesn't work, because you're not living your life if you're lying. You're living some made-up fiction version of what you'd like your life to be. Don't fake it till you make it. Recognize who you really are, and don't try to follow other people's lead. Follow your own lead. Look into your mind and figure it out. People these days are born without the passion for understanding the world. They're without the passion for understanding the cosmos. They're without the passion for understanding the mind. They're without the passion for reading. They're without the passion for learning. They go to school. I went to school, my whole school. I graduated high school. I got a diploma. I barely made it through, but I didn't pay attention. I only realized how much I loved the idea of learning things and knowing the truth and having extra knowledge. I only got that much later. Makes you wish that you would have known the alternative in advance. So it really puts you in a stupid position, which makes you question the things that you've done before. But why regret? You can't change the things you've done. You can only move forward from them. So one of my favorite people to listen to passed away in 1971. Alan Watts. He's an English philosopher. He lived in California, and he studied Chinese philosophy. He studied Asian philosophy, Eastern philosophy, the Tao, Buddha, the yin and the yang, the idea of being whole, separating the divide between darkness and light, and the, like I say, the yin and the yang. If you look, the yin and the yang, I use that's the easiest one. For me, I often refer to dichotomies as yin and yang. But, so the yin and the yang are the dichotomy that basically create each other. If you don't do anything good, you're not going to do anything bad, and you can stay in the middle and just live an uninteresting life. Or you can decide you're going to do some great things, but recognize that that makes things interesting, but then recognizes the equal negatives. You're withdrawing something when you're depositing something. You have to, because it all comes back in the end. It's the yin and yang is the same thing as what comes around goes around. Yin and yang is the same thing as the shadow and the ego, or the unconscious and the conscious. Sorry, not the shadow and the ego. That didn't make sense. But the unconscious and the conscious. You have you can find on any level and any microcosm. On any level of understanding, there is the yin and the yang. If you're born, you must die. And people don't recognize this. They think they can constantly do good things and only do good things. Well, why do I keep dealing with these horrible things that I do after I do these great things? Why do I have so many temptations? you could have this person that goes out and does these amazing things. I'm talking charity, donations, starts organizations, does all sorts of good things. Why do they have the temptations that they have? Why do they have the tendencies that they have? Why do they explode when they get angry? Why? That's the question. Well, you don't realize that for every good action you do, there's an equal negative. You may repress most of it. It goes boom, 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 and you take that mallet and whack it down into your unconscious. You repress it because you don't want anything to do with all those negatives. What you don't realize is all you're doing is pouring a bunch of fuel into your tank. Fuel into your tank. Fuel into your tank. And then somebody's going to come by with that match, and they're going to throw it into your tank. And then you're going to go boom. And you're not realizing that that's what's going to happen. But it happens. Unfortunately. Elon Musk, I like him. He's pretty awesome. He does some cool things. He has a lot of great companies. You open up free speech, you create an electric car, you open SpaceX, you do all these great things. Well, there's so many bads that come with it. Free speech, that saying, burning a flag is a grotesque sight in America, the United States flag. But I will fight for your right to be able to do it. That's free speech. It's true. It's true. As horrible as burning a flag is, it shouldn't be illegal. It's still free speech. As horrible as saying a lot of the things that are said, as horrible as it is to have the opinion that you hate Jewish people and you decide you like the Nazis, it's a horrible thing to feel, morally. But you have the right to feel it, to think it. You have the right to be racist. You have the right to say racist things. You can't get put in jail for saying racist things or feeling them. You have the right to that. That's free speech. And you got to realize all of the horrible things that you find on something like X, formerly known as Twitter. You see horrible things on social media. That is the other side of the good coin when it comes to free speech. Having a platform with free speech, I mean actually free speech, where nothing is shadow banned or blocked or hidden, that's actual free speech. As long as you're not doing anything illegal. It's not, there's going to be great things and there's going to be grotesque things, and there's going to be the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's unfortunate, but that's there. There's no, you can't escape it. And so, as much as you'd like to say, well, he shouldn't have this on that platform, and he shouldn't have that, you don't have to use it. I don't use X, but as much as you say that there shouldn't be those things on that platform, at the same time, then is it free speech? That's the question. As grotesque as it is, it is free speech. It's free speech, and I guess that's just the nature of the world. One of my favorite things here, I'm going to add to this a little bit. Fyodor Dostoevsky, one of my favorite authors, by the way, who I found this out from Jordan Peterson, listening to Jordan Peterson. It's just amazing stuff to listen to. And then reading the books, which I have his whole collected works, every single one. And one of the points that I get from him as an author, and it really means something, you could be in a position where you are given everything you need. You are given cakes to eat. You are given free time. You don't have to work. We're talking about now, he's referring to socialism, but this applies all sorts of places. You could be given everything you need. You could be given a perfect world, and you will throw a wrench in the spokes just because you want something interesting, even if it's at your peril. Nobody just wants to loaf around comfortably for the rest of their life. No one wants that. Everybody wants a challenge. Everybody wants hardship. It's the other half. If you do a bunch of good things, you're going to want it. You need a bunch of bad things to make it even. Here's another example of the dichotomy. The same thing as the yin and the yang, or two sides to the same coin. Here's where it is. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil is the same symbol as the yin and the yang. It's two halves to the same coin. Through the Christian doctrine, we were created in the beginning. When you're a child and you first start learning, and you don't, or you're not an intellectual, and you don't realize. Oftentimes, you think that we were made and created to be perfect. He says, but later on, it says in the Bible that you were made to know the knowledge of the good and evil. You have been made like gods, knowing the knowledge of good and evil. You are made in the image of God. God knows of good and evil. If we are made in the image of God, then we know good and evil. We are made this way. It is in our nature. Carl Jung said this himself, and Carl Jung is probably the guiding principle in my life. I should say, probably my biggest idol. I don't worship him, so I'm definitely not disobeying the commandment. But I'll say that he touches on endless points that just make sense. 400 levels below the surface, he will connect the dots. He can see the connections, and he's helped me see connections and things I would have never saw a connection in. And I guess it's a very fascinating thing to think that the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, we were created to. Had Eve not eaten the fruit, when she was proposed to eat the fruit by the serpent, she would have then knew good. She would have known evil from the position of good, because she was given a decision to do a good or bad thing, and she decided to do the good thing. So she still would have known evil because it was the opposite choice of what she did. That's an interesting thing. Very interesting. So, as I say, this all relates back to the original question I was asking. Do things start from so you got to think, the fact that somebody's an advocate for something, or an activist, or a politician against a specific thing that is the spearhead of their campaign, you got to think, those all come from, those are massive things that they take on in their life. Well, they have to come from a massive beginning. A massive thing had to create the passion for it. And that's the two sides. That's the two sides. There's a lot more to this to talk about, but I'm not going to have a 3-hour podcast. So, I appreciate you guys coming in and listening. I want to start doing this regularly. I'm hoping maybe to do it every day. I guess maybe that would be nice. I'm going to try. But yeah, I mean, I really would like to create the ability to open people's minds. I would like to make people think deeper, and love learning again. So cliche, sounds like what your third grade teacher would tell you, but I mean, in reality, we should love learning. It's so, people frown on it. I don't know if that's projection or what, but it's honestly sad, and there's no point in living life with an empty mind and being cynical and only thinking about what you can see. We should always open our eyes. And we should also open our third eye into our mind. We should be more introspective. My cousin just shot himself a few days ago because he had his pot boiled over. He had too much stress in life and couldn't handle it anymore. He has 2 children, 10 and 4, that are now going to have to pick up the pieces. His mother, who's fighting bone cancer, is going to have to pick up the pieces. And it's sad. But that's where we're at in society. Thank you, guys. And I will touch on another question in the next podcast. See you soon.